There she is.
There's our girl, our little Zoom
Oh,
girl.
they're recording.
That's right. Legally, you must be notified.
Yep.
Everybody staying hydrated. It's 104 degrees here today.
Whoa. And where are you guys?
So I just moved to Texas.
I'm in Philly.
Daryl's right outside of Philly.
Oh, okay. It's not 104 there, though.
No,
Right.
It's like 90, nowhere near. Nowhere near.
My dad calls me today on my way home. He's like, "Oh, it's so hot here today." I'm like, "Really? Is it? What is it?" He's like, "It's 93 degrees." And I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
I remember when that used to be hot, you know?
Right. I
mean,
mean,
the next
story.
in the next 10 days, the forecast is 7 out of 10 days are over 100, and the other 3 are 99. It's
wow. That's brutal. Oh my God.
It's I don't know what I was thinking.
That's intense. All right, well, stay in the air.
That's right. All right, so I'm gonna in a second here, you're gonna hear a little intro ditty, and then I'll fade that out, and we'll be going.
Nice.
All right. The Everyman podcast.
The Everyman podcast.
With a very special guest this week. Grammy Award winning. He's an inventor. He's an artist. He's a wizard. Musician. You may know him from a little band called Dream Theater. Ladies and gentlemen, putting together our Dream Theater podcast of Voltron here, Jordan Rudess. Jordan, how are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. I like the introduction. I was trying to figure out which hat to wear while you were saying that, so I grabbed the hat. Hat. What do I hear?
I know
you're a man of many hats.
Man of many hats, and like I said there to kick it off, and we had the pleasure of having Mr. Labrie on the pod a few weeks ago, talking about his solo album, which is great. If y'all haven't listened to that yet, Shades of Grey, it's out there. It's great, excellent record.
Yeah, I agree.
And a couple weeks ago, I'm. Who really pays attention to the Grammys? I guess you get defeated so many times. You're like, they don't really. It's all corporate. It's this, it's that, and then next thing I know, I see a little notification. It's like, bloop! Holy shit! Dream Theater won a Grammy! Like, finally,
amazing, right?
It's
amazing.
About time.
And I was,
I mean, it's great.
It's great. So, how does that feel? Congratulations, first of all.
Congrats.
How's that ride been for you?
Awesome. My career has been a long ride, and I can remember when, many years being in Dream Theater where the Grammys were so out of the question. It was almost like, here we are having our career in our world. Then there's like that Grammy thing that we're just not part of. But at one point through the years, we were like, well, wait a minute, why aren't we part of that? So, with a little bit of intention and a little bit of direction, shall we say, we moved to become part of that. And then, which led to our nominations. This was like the 3rd nomination, which ended up being a win. So, I mean, the reality is that it's an amazing thing to have Dream Theater and what we do be recognized on that level, because, well, for one thing, there's a lot of different awards. There's many ways musicians and entertainers can be accepted and given for the credit for what they do, but the Grammys is the one that everybody knows. And say what you want about the Grammys, but it's the first thing out of anybody's mouth when they're talking about you. It's the first thing on your resume. It actually has meaning on that level because it opens doors and opportunities and gives a certain level of like automatic respect. I mean, it's kind of crazy, whatever, that's why I say what you want, but it is that. And the fact that we secured a Grammy for a song that's basically in 17/8 time is that's awesome. It's just kind of funny, and it's very Dream Theater. And I hope that it provides an opening for all the other amazingly talented musicians that are out there doing some great music that doesn't usually get noticed. So maybe the fact that they opened the door for us and gave us this will open up the world to another level for all the amazing musicians that we know playing prog and prog metal and all these amazing styles that don't usually get recognized the way they should.
It is pretty amazing, and like you said, it almost lends kind of mainstream credibility to what it is that you're doing. And I know, I've been meeting a lot of people out here. I just moved to Texas, and people are like, oh, what do you do? What do you do for fun? I'm like, oh, I have a podcast, my bro Daryl, and we've had Grammy Award winning musicians. And when you say that, they're like, oh, really? You're like, all of a sudden it's like, hey, that makes sense, And I think, I've always been, Yes was my first musical love. My dad is a musician, and he loves you, by the way. And I kind of grew up in that progressive world. And then as a young drummer, I was always in these weird little musical bubbles, where I'm like, no, what do you mean you don't know about King Crimson? Like this is this is a true genius right here, and
Right.
Now progressive music has gotten so expansive, and you have these newer mainstream groups like Chan or Polyphia, even Interval, like some of these instrumental groups. Animals as Leaders is another one where that's bringing people into the swimming pool, if you will. And then when you start looking around, you're like, okay, well, who are the flagpoles of this? Who are the big wigs? And then it's like Dream Theater, Between the Buried and Me. BT Bam is another band that, I hope eventually they get their moment in the spotlight there at the Grammys. But there's all these great musicians, and the progressive bubble is like expanding outward so much. It's like everything is progressive now in the metal world. And you look at a band like even Meshuggah, I talk about them as every chance I get. I don't know if you're a Meshuggah fan at all, Jordan, but they do some incredibly complicated rhythms. Yeah. And it's at another level of like what you would think the average listener wants to hear, but then they're top 100 on Billboard, and you have all this music coming from all corners of the world, and there's that kind of that thread that goes through it. I was looking on your Instagram today and seeing you do that social challenge where you have other musicians playing with you, and it's like you get to a certain level of talent on guitar and everyone plays like John Petrucci. Like at this point in life, he's so dynamic, and he's like inspired 25 years of guitar players.
Right.
You got guys that are like they don't even really know where they're getting it from, but it's like, oh yeah, you're like on the Dream Theater tree,
Right. No, that's amazing. It's interesting to hear your perspective about all that. I mean, for one thing, when you talk about the guitar world, I've been playing a lot more guitar over the past 7-8 months. So it's kind of started to focus on it and playing every day. And what's interesting about it is that, I'm discovering like not only more about the guitarists I know, but everywhere I look, there's somebody else who plays the guitar really, really well. And that whole kind of like art form of the guitar has magnified to a point where there really are a lot of people who can play that instrument very well. Because rock and roll is kind of bred, virtuoso guitarists. One reason being that, the main instrument in 98% of rock bands is the guitar. So the guitarist has to be good. So it's kind of led us to this point where, yes, influenced by John Petrucci and some others trickling down, YouTube videos, games where you can play the guitar. And it's just gotten to this high level. You have guys like Tosin Abasi who are like from another planet playing the guitar. So you going like, oh my God, what the hell is going on? But there's a lot of guys like that.
Right. And you were just at NAMM. Last NAMM I was at was 2020, and it's like you can't throw a bouncy ball without hitting 15 guys that can play everything that John Petrucci has written, or and then there's somebody playing Eddie Van Halen parts behind their head, and they're 12 years old. It's like
I just posted a clip, a story. My dentist actually was just banging through the glass prison.
Your dentist?
As clean as a whistle. Like this guy when he's not doing his dental work, he's back there, he's practicing his alternate picking and his stuff, and he's playing his ass off. I'm like, oh my God, amazing. You know?
That's
awesome.
wild. Now, did you choose him because he was a Dream Theater fan, or did he become a Dream Theater fan once he found out what you do?
I found him through Instagram because he participated in a contest I was having with some of the visual, app stuff that I do. And he did something really nice. And I kind of found out that he was a guitarist. And then I found out he was a dentist. And it's a long story. His name is Steve Dedayan, for those who are interested. He's a great dentist and he's a really great guitarist.
That's awesome.
That's perfect. Now, before we get too far into it, I wanted to tell a story about, the first time Daryl met you. Now, Jordan, we were talking about this before the pod. I've been kind of floating around the Dream Theater camp, and actually a lot of it, almost all of it is kind of your doing. When I was sick, I had a real bad heart disease. I had just aged out. I was terminal. I had just aged out of the Make-A-Wish program. And my doctor was like, hey, why don't you reach out to some people that you really look up to and see if maybe they'll meet you or whatever. I'll help you out if you need to. So you've always been, a pioneer on social media and, we'll get into all that. But I had actually reached out to I found an email on your website. It was your webmaster. And then he got me linked up to you. And then you got me in touch with Rick. And then next thing I know, you guys are all my boys, and I got blessed and highly favored. So about, I guess, 2.5 years ago, you guys were playing the Tower Theater, and it was the first time we had met Mike Mangini to do a podcast. And yes. We did the podcast on the bus and the couch back there, and they were emailing us like, hey, just go around the side. And we come around the side and I see you there. And I think you might have been with Zach Rossi. Shout out to Zach Rossi, great kid, friend of the show, guest of the show. And now you guys are always cautious with handshaking, rightfully so, because that's your livelihood. It's, as a musician, I know I'm always worried about my hands. And I also know that generally in public, you guys do like a fist pump or whatever. Like you're not just shaking hands with everybody because you get people that are a little too excited. Now, my friend Daryl here is let's just say he's a giant of a man. He former NFL player. If he wants to, like, even at my wedding, Jordan, he comes around the corner, he gives me a big hug, he picks me up. Like, it doesn't matter. If you want to go if he wants to take you for a ride, not much you can do about it.
Wait, we need a close up. We need a close up of Daryl's hand now in the broadcast.
Yeah, put your hand up in comparison to that full microphone. So I see you. You're chilling. I'm like, hey, Jordan, nice to see you again. Justin Vigil. This is my friend Daryl. We're here to meet with Mike. Daryl proceeds to go and give you a handshake like he was trying to take the sword out of the stone. And you were like, God, like you like pulled back and you were like, geez, and you actually like shook it. And I was like, in that moment, like my life flashed before my eyes. I was like, this is it. We're done. Like we just broke Jordan Rudess's hand.
He doesn't play anymore.
Yeah, we just ended this man's career. Daryl's just excited. Like, how am I going to explain this to? And then I'm thinking Rick's going to come kick my ass. Like, what? How am I going to explain this to Big Rick? And
luckily, I survived it just fine, but I was a little surprised at the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I felt horribly though afterwards. Though I was just like, oh my gosh, no.
Good that happened because now. Before I shake somebody's hand, I'm always looking, especially if it's a fist pump, because if you see they do the wind up thing, I kind of like,
yeah,
you gotta
get the elbow in there.
Yeah,
I'm very cautious. Now, that kind of thing has happened here and there through my career. Actually, I remember one time I was online, we had just starting a leg in Canada, and I was online ready to meet the fans. The first person on the line I walk up to, I'm not, fully thinking about all this stuff yet. And he walks up to me and he goes like, slaps. I put out my hand. He gives me this intense high five. I was like, oh my God, broke me.
Yeah, people, and as someone who's, and again, like I was talking to my dad on my way home before this podcast, and we were at SCORE together, and I was like, hey, remember that? I was listening to Octavarium, the drive home, and I'm like, yeah, remember how great that concert was? It was a big surprise, that whole thing. And to go from like that moment to like now the relationships that I've been able to build with you guys and getting to know you guys as people a little bit. It's as somebody who was in those lines, doing the meet and greets and getting the whole thing signed. Like I know how much it means to people. And I know how excited people get. And also, you know, a lot of people, they plan their year around that, you know, like that's their thing. And especially like I would see the same 5 people, you know, in the same front row with us every time, you know,
Right.
multiple shows. And
Yeah.
it's a good problem to have, you know, enthusiastic fans. That's why you guys have had the career, the longevity that you have.
Totally. No, that's good. I appreciate that level of, you know, support. It always makes me feel like, wow, look what we're doing here. You know, we have real, you know, resonance with a lot of people, and really creating something important to, you know, to the folks.
Yeah. And then,
Right.
you know, you look around and I will say this, that the female segment of the audience has grown over the years. You know, it used to be maybe 3 total, and now there's, you know, 25 to 30. And, you know, I've brought my wife out to a couple, and she's a Dream Theater fan now. But you got these guys like, you know, Glass Prison, Dark Eternal Night, hell yeah. And then like Spirit Carries On comes on. I look around and we're all crying, you know, like it just
tough guys, right? And all of
yeah,
a sudden,
right. All of us in our black t-shirts and camo shorts, you know, it's
speaking of audiences with energy, I got to tell you this, you know, story about Istanbul, Turkey, because that's, you know, that's quite a place to play. The fans there are extremely passionate, and also I should say that we just played there the last show of this last tour, ended a couple weeks ago. And first of all, there had to be a quarter of the audience were female, which is interesting because when you go to these different countries, it's always a little bit different. But somehow there's a lot of women who are into Dream Theater there. But that wasn't the main point of my story. The main point was the first time I ever played Istanbul, I was remembering that we got to a point, I think it was in Fatal Tragedy, that song, right? And we get to this one, and all of a sudden, when we got to an accent, everybody in the audience simultaneously raised their hand like that. And I remember being at the keyboard, and I almost like backed off because I thought it was so coordinated between everybody and with such incredible force that I thought, oh my God, they're gonna rush the stage or something, because it was really intense.
Well,
so whenever I go back to
that's awesome. And they coordinate, you know, they get online, like I've seen it, you know, on the message boards. I'm dating myself, but yeah, and I think also with that, like I love, like, something my wife and I like to do. We have like a bunch of concert Blu-rays and DVDs, and we'll like sit there, have a drink, and just put a concert on. And I think international audiences consume that stuff, and they see how one audience did it, or like there's one thing in a live album that particularly catches on, and then they're listening to it all the time. So it's like they respond with it, you know, when they get their opportunity. But that's gotta be wild. How was Europe for you guys?
It was really great. It's been amazing to get out there and play again. And although, a lot of the numbers aren't what they would have been if not for the world events that are going on, still we looked out there every night and it was, we felt great. I mean, it was, it's just a good vibe. I think everybody was even that much more into it because they were appreciating, being there for the shows, and we were appreciating being there for the shows. And I feel like we had a really, really tight, well-formed set list that, we were just delivering, and it felt that way. So many of the nights it just kind of reached this point of almost like an ecstatic vibe of playing this music and these big epics of You from the Top of the World and Count of Tuscany and Ministry of Lost Souls. And it was a real high, and I felt my own energy kind of like raising, and it was just fantastic.
Yes. I've said
Awesome.
this to John and James at least a dozen times between the two of them. My request is you guys do a tour where it's like 7 songs, and it's just A Change of Seasons, 6 Degrees, Octavarium, Count of Tuscany, View from, and then out, and then just boom, just 2 hours of just epics. I think that would be
2 hours, 3 songs.
yeah. That sounds about right for a Dream Theater show. But I've noticed that, I've been, as you can see here, my Dream Theater tattoo, I proudly have here. I've been, actually the way I found out about Dream Theater was going to see Yes back in 2004.
We toured.
Yeah, I saw you guys at the Allentown Fairgrounds in beautiful Allentown, Pennsylvania. And also, I think you guys played in Atlantic City too. I went to that as well. And okay. I remember being like, who's this band Dream Theater? And this was like, Petrucci green hair era. So it was like, that's pretty cool. And then of course I see, as a drummer, I see Mike back there, Portnoy, and I'm like, well, shit, he's got 2 drum sets. Like there's something going on here, and then you guys did that Machine Messiah cover. And I was like, whoa, like, what is this? And then like, I remember coming home and I got Awake, and then, 6 Degrees and Train of Thought. And then next thing you know, like that created going to see you guys open for Yes. And then what was a 14-year-old doing at a Yes concert anyway in 2004? That's odd on its face. But I wonder how many other people like that are like me out there that saw you on that tour, because now you guys are, I don't know who you would open for on a tour unless it was like Metallica or Rush, and Rush is not really doing it anymore, unfortunately. But it really exposed you guys to like a new audience, and I just got obsessed with the band. And I think a lot of your fan base is that kind of musician focused, thing, but the songwriting has evolved over the years, and like the things that I would gravitate towards as a 15-year-old aspiring drummer, now as somebody who enjoys a nice pop song every now and then, there's a little bit of everything in there, and you guys keep expanding it. It's like every time a new record comes out, you're like, and don't take this the wrong way, but it's like you're distilling the Dream Theater essence into a tighter and tighter and tighter package. And it's like you said, winning a Grammy for that, for the Alien, and you're like, you listen to that song and it's like I hear it played on Sirius all the time. I was in a record store and it was playing, and it's like you finally got to that sweet spot of like, and I think also the music scene has caught up to what you guys are doing. Like I said, you got these bands like Animals as Leaders, Between the Buried and Me, Polyphia, all this stuff, where that's palatable all of a sudden. And then it's like, well, if you like this, check out these guys. And it's like, holy shit,
all the bands you just pointed out are all instrumental.
Right.
So Dream Theater, certainly having vocals makes us appeal to a wider, as vocals do, But
that right there, instrumental music, like, can you remember a time where instrumental music, where there was that many top level working instrumental bands?
No, it's pretty incredible considering in many ways it's still a small scene, but for those of us who are in the know, I mean, we know that it's vibrant. There's a ton of stuff going on. All you have to do is look.
Yeah. And some of these, again, like you were just at NAMM, some of these young musicians that are out there are just absolutely wild. And one of the things I wanted to discuss with you is, is kind of your role as an innovator. And again, as long as I can remember, you've always been like the guy that had something first. Like one of my first memories of you is, I'm a collector. And I love having physical copies of stuff, records, tapes. I'm buying cassettes right now, VHS. I'm just worried things are going to get lost. And I want to have physical copies of stuff.
Yeah, right.
And I've been looking for like Dream Theater tapes. And there's actually a record store here. It's the largest record store in the country. It's incredible. Next time you're in Dallas, look up Josie's. I'm sure you'd enjoy it. It's huge. It's like the size of a Best Buy, and it's all vinyl. But seeing you on the Live Scenes from New York DVD, and how hot that crowd was, and all the epic scale of that record. But I remember seeing you play, I think at the time you were playing a Kurzweil, and you had that ribbon, touch sensitive ribbon. And this is like
On the Kurzweil, yeah.
1999, 2000. I mean, it was 22 years ago, basically. And like, I had never at the time, I had never seen like a touch interface keyboard, and you're like doing your solos and you're modulating the pitch, because obviously you get the wheel and everybody understands that. But then, you know, Octavarium comes out and it's like, what is this sound that I'm hearing at the beginning of Octavarium? And it's like, oh, it's the continuum board. And you're like, what the fuck is a continuum board? And there you are, like, you know, with this pressure sensitive thing. And then you took it to the next level and you started making your own apps. And I remember when MorphWiz came out, my nieces were just born, and we were like, I was trying to expose them to, like, as infants, musical stuff. And I got that on the iPad and I plopped them down in front of that. And they were just, I mean, they were 8 months old. They were mesmerized, you know?
Wow.
And then they still, like, you know, as they got older, I've always kept it on my phone. And now I know you've got the whole Wizard toolkit now, but seeing like infants pick that up and play with it. And then somebody like you, and then even then you started using, like, it was an iPod Touch, I think, at the time. Then you got the iPad, and like, I remember people being like, oh, what is this? This is bananas. Fast forward to 2022. How many guitarists that are touring are using completely digital interfaces, MIDI interfaces, MIDI, you know, like I mean, even John has the guitar plugins that are all virtual.
Sure.
And all the apps that you've developed. And you were like, if there was somebody else that was doing it before you, I would love to know who it is. But what made you kind of want to innovate? Was it just like you were trying to find something that you didn't have, and so you had to make it? Like, what made you do that, and how did you kind of start that app developer process?
Well, okay, so first of all, I appreciate your kind of broad knowledge of the Dream Theater and even my personal journey and all. That's pretty cool to recap with your perspective and all the years focused on it. So thank you for that. So it all really started for me, that part of my journey, when I discovered the synthesizer, right? Some friends, just to recap a little bit of my path. So when I was like 17 or something like that, like some friends from high school, they literally brought over one of the Moog, I think it was a Sonic 5 synthesizer, to my house, because they knew that, you know, I'd be interested in it, and I'd never seen anything quite like it. They brought it over. They came to my front door of my family house. My mother answered the door. My mother, who was the one driving me back and forth to Juilliard, you know, the classical music school, and I think she saw that and she almost closed the door on them. But they kind of like forcibly came in with this keyboard, went to my bedroom. We plugged it in. I put on headphones in the bed, and I moved a couple of knobs, like the filter knob, the synthesizer. I mean, I'm like playing a key and doing this with the knob. I'm going, oh my God, okay, so things are really changing here. And then I'm moving, like playing a note and changing the pitch. You don't do that on a piano. So that was like a real awakening for me to have that experience. And then I had my sights really set on getting a mini Moog. I really wanted a mini Moog. That was the next kind of thing. And I had pictures of like Rick Wakeman with his mini Moog, and I was listening to like Patrick Moraz playing in Refugee, and I knew I wanted this instrument so bad. So I convinced my parents, and who asked my uncle at the time, who bought me a mini Moog. And so getting into that world of electronics, it was really like a different part of my brain was being tapped to be able to harness these sounds, and kind of like this, let's call it, say, continuous expression, like of turning a knob and having the sound change. Because that was in the day when, like, a lot of classical musicians and people were saying, oh, the keyboard synthesizers, they're not expressive, they're not dynamic, you can only play like one velocity on them. And to me, that argument never made sense even back then.
You tell that to Rick Wakeman.
Although the mechanism of the key didn't necessarily do anything velocity-wise, you had all these amazing knobs. You can constantly, I would play the mini Moog and have one hand always on the knobs, and the other hand on the keys. So it's always changing. So I became involved with the manufacturing side of the business, because back in the day, about 35 years ago, I got a job with Korg as a product specialist, and I learned a lot about synthesizers. I got to contribute ideas and stuff to the cause, and from there I went on to work a bit with Kurzweil, the kind of keyboard that you saw, long time ago. And again, I started to understand what it was like to make an instrument, what kind of thinking and engineering and software goes into it. But moving forward after that, and after my career started to happen, with Dixie Dregs and Liquid Tension, and then of course Dream Theater, I had discovered the first like iPhones, I guess it was about 13, 14 years ago now. And I put my hand on it. And although it didn't make any good sounds or have any good visuals back in the day, I had something in my head. Like I thought by placing my fingers down on the surface and moving them kind of in different directions, I thought, wow, like you could do like amazing things with changing pitch of one and making the other one go in a different direction, or moving the filter or the panning with one, like have all these independent kinds of motions. That's what was going on in my head. So I reached out to one of the early developers who was doing something musical that I thought, even though it was kind of primitive in those days, I thought I can work with this guy. Let me ask him if he wants to kind of follow my vision forward. So that year is the year I worked with this guy. His name is Kevin Chartier, and we released MorphWiz. And it was also the year that the Billboard magazine had Best Music App Award. So MorphWiz won the Best Music App. And MorphWiz, which was amazing, but MorphWiz was all about taking this vision I had, not only for sound and having like pitch and control kind of independent to the fingers, but I also have always had this feeling for combining the world of visuals and sound together. It's always been very important to me because in my head, I really kind of see them as the same thing. So what we did is we assigned different graphic icons to different audio waveforms. And as you move your finger on this vertical axis, the sound would morph through different waveforms and the visual would morph through these kind of icon representations of the waveforms. And it was all independent. So that started my whole thing. And winning that award gave me the kind of the reach and the notoriety in that world to keep on playing the game, which was amazing. Because after that, I came out with SampleWiz, which was a very popular app as well. And from there, it's kind of, I've been loving this kind of like being involved with developers. Not everything comes out under Wisdom Music. Some things I do in partnership with other companies. Like this year, I did something with a company called Blius out of France. We made SampleWiz 2, which is amazing. If people haven't checked that out, it's an iOS app for iPad, iPhones. I worked with another French company called FingerLab, and we did an app called Polywave, which lets you draw your own waveforms with your finger on the screen and then put waveforms kind of in order. So when you play a note, it'll go through this cycle of waveforms. Lots of cool stuff, going on. Also in the visual world, I've been working on that too. I have an app called Rhythm, like rhythm, but with a V, working with a German developer. And it's an awesome kind of like, it's like a music visualizer, kind of out of the school of thought like the old Windows visualizers, but it's highly controllable. So as an artist creating visuals, you're not only just saying, okay, to start, and just play whatever. You're going in there and you can have LFOs and you can have control and you can put them on MIDI sliders. And, we're kind of opening up the world of performance visualization. So that's something we're kind of really focusing on to bring to another level now to release. And of course, my biggest app these days, which is doing very, very well, is GeoShred. GeoShred is an application that was born out of a partnership with Stanford University. My partner, Julius Smith, was one of the inventors of physical modeling, and his team are just amazing guys working together on, the business and the iOS development and the physical modeling. And they're called Moforte. They're great guys. And so we have this app that is popular throughout the world. It's an amazing success in India, where they have Carnatic music and they're very conscious of pitch bending, because GeoShred has this very intelligent, cool pitch bending, which lets you almost do like what I call the Steve Vai kind of thing, which is like these amazing pitch bends, but they're kind of like perfectly in tune. So you can slide and then, this broad slide to a note, it's in tune, and then vibrato it and just go to another note and it's in tune when you reach the destination. And so my world of creating apps is something that I'm so passionate about. I love it. And I'm just going to continue doing it because I love the idea that technology can offer new ways of expression. I'm not that concerned with the nature of the actual sounds, because we're at a point now with samplers and all that stuff where basically we can like harness any kind of sound we want, but how do you control the sound? How do you make it yet more expressive, more intuitive? How do you incorporate all your senses, your visual, your touch, the haptic thing, to just make an experience that connects the music more to who we are as people? That's kind of like where I'm coming from and what really excites me about the whole thing.
Man, that is so cool to hear you kind of walk through it. And I mean, you talk about samples, like, in drummer world, the sample thing has always been like the kick drum sample, and like trying to get that perfect kick drum sample if you're using a trigger live. And I'm of the opinion that, you still have to play the music, you still have to do the mechanics, triggers aren't cheating. It's really in service of the music. But I've got this Rodecaster console here, and it's got a built-in sampler. Like, I can, in real time, I could take what you just said and record it, assign it to a pad, and pitch shift it, and make you sound like a Decepticon if I wanted to. And
yeah, totally.
And that for, like I said, with the combination of YouTube and all this stuff and these apps that are affordable, I mean, look at something like Antares Autotune. Like when that first came out, it was a $800 plugin that you needed to have a full version of Pro Tools to run. And then in order to run a full version of Pro Tools, you had to have this powerful PC or Apple computer. And now everybody has an iPhone, everybody's kids have iPads, and like the little Fisher Price piano has been replaced by these incredibly powerful devices. And it's like, we've seen it go from like, oh, that's cute, he's over there with his, like, because I'm a long time message board troll, and I remember seeing people be like, oh, this is stupid, like, it's dinky, he's using a headphone adapter to get, and it's like, well, look at it now. Like, I don't think anybody's laughing now. And like, you hear it on the records, and you see it on tour. It's gone. It's so cool to see it happen, like, before our eyes.
That every night on the past Dream Theater tour, I play this cello solo. It's not on cello, it's on geoshred. But it's in the middle of View from the Top of the World, the title track of our new album. Breaks down to where it's just John Bertucci and I playing. He's playing the guitar, I'm playing geoshred, and I basically play the theme. And it's basically a physical model cello sound. So it's probably, of all my keyboards and software in the studio and everything, this cello sound on geoshred is the best solo cello sound that you can have in the digital world. And it's just really fun, and it's really dynamic to play, very expressive. Because on the geoshred surface, you can have all these dynamics. Every note is a note area, so you can basically start at the bottom of the note area and just fade it in and touch different places in that window, and you get all this really organic, very natural kind of like response.
I know I was showing Daryl your apps earlier today. I think he's already downloaded GeoShred. He's over there GeoShredding at NFL Films.
Well, I mean, like, for me, it's when I hear you talk about the visualization portion of it, I'm a producer here at NFL Films, and we're all about visuals, but we're also all about sound. So I had I say you blessed me today, just Spotify just going on and listening to Rockestra and some of your inside tracks, and like I'm listening to this all day, and I'm like, if we had this on some of our features, it's like getting on a pirate ship and just going to take siege to someone. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, thanks, man. That Rockestra album, that was an album that I produced for Universal, and the purpose of that album, it's on the Universal publishing page, so anybody who can sign up to Universal and license that music. It's made for TV, it's made for film. License. I'm now working on the third one of those collections for Universal. This latest one's more of a thematic piano and orchestra based album. Doesn't have a name yet, we're not there yet, but no, that's been a good, that side of what I do has been really kind of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that really got me going today for sure. Now, one of the things I'm just curious about, just because I have the opportunity to ask you, like, was there any gear that you've tried out that like you were really committed to it at the time, that in hindsight you're like, nah, maybe that was...
Well,
maybe that was a stinker. Is there anything like you're not into in hindsight?
Or I don't need to go into saying like particular names of products, but
right. I just mean like an idea.
Because I'm I play this role on kind of, I guess, the cutting edge of, of technology and musical expression. People kind of come to me because they want me to experience what they're creating and to, play it, but also hopefully keep spreading the word about the stuff. And it is my pleasure to check out, any like new development in music technology. I'm passionate about it. I love it. But sometimes you get something that, is really kind of a cool idea, but it doesn't, there's only so much time in the day, and maybe it doesn't totally fit with my, my thinking. And there's definitely devices and musical instruments that have come my way. I go, blah, 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 I play it, I enjoy it, it's great, but then I don't play it anymore because, I want to focus on the things that really are important to me. So yeah, because and sometimes it's not even that they're not great instruments. Sometimes it's more that I'm one guy, so I kind of have to pick what do I want to focus on.
Right.
But if something great comes along, like when a continuum came along, that was a groundbreaking instrument. I'm going to play that. And
I wanted one of those so bad.
Yeah, those are they're awesome. So, and even the continuum, I don't play all the time and it's sitting in my studio, but I cherish the thing. I know how important it is to the picture of like instrument. Everybody looks at that. That was like an amazing instrument. There's been a lot of great things that I'm not playing all the time, but I have a lot of respect for. I think are wonderful. Like the Linstrument, Roger Lynn's expressive controller, which is an incredible instrument, beautiful. He's done a great job on that. I'm not playing it all the time. I have one because I can't do everything. So yeah, that's kind of like the nature of what that is and how I kind of interface with it all.
Now your rig now, again, throw back to Octavarium. I was hoping that whole analog synthesizer rig was going to be like your new thing, and we would just get to a certain point where the whole friggin' stage was switches and wires. I mean, Daryl, he had I'll have to send you the video. I mean, it had to have been 10 feet tall. I don't know if it was on a riser or what.
I have it right here.
Please show
I'll
me.
show you.
Please show us.
We'll go into my chamber here. Show you what you're remembering. Let me turn on the light.
Probably spooking you with my visual memory of.
So this is the piece that you're remembering.
Yes, there.
Wow.
Oh, look at that shit.
It's covered by some boxes now because it's a whole thing. With the keyboard.
Whoa.
All the stuff. So yeah, this thing was monstrous, and it's in this big case also. The whole thing is kind of like in there. But I walked in one day, like while the crew were setting this thing up. I think we were doing like our Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon thing, and I watched them pick up this like, I don't know, 350, 400 pound thing. I was like, you know what? I don't need that. I can make my sounds a different way. So I was being gentle on the guys, but my keyboard world here, let's see if I can show you a little bit of that. If I can flip this thing around, if I can figure it out. Well, I can do it this way. So I've got a rack of, on the wall. Maddie, our head tech, put a whole bunch of hooks on the wall, and I can have some keyboards here, it's nice. Fun things. Then I got my I got my continuum and stuff.
Ah, there it is.
Nice. There it is.
That just the continuum. This is a Rolly Lumi board. There's a C board here.
I've got a Rolly C board.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So over in this area, I've got lighting and stuff like that for my streams. But if I pop in here, so then I've got my Kronos, which is the main keyboard that I use live, and some other Korg goodies. And this is a Nautilus, which is the latest kind of Korg keyboard that they are very into my talking about, because it's their newest thing. And then of course the nicest instrument in the room is the Steinway piano. That it's got an awesome that you don't need to turn on. It's just always on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That was, thank you for that.
Thank you. That was amazing.
That's what this is about. The moments that happen organically. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Jordan.
So yeah, and then I'm doing and then I got some guitars. Of course, John Petrucci has
You have to
graced me with some of his guitars and the original Seaboard that came out, an old Moog here, another Korg thing, and a nice PRS. Then over here I got these wonderful acoustic panels by PSY. They light up. You can have them kind of light up in different colors.
Whoa.
I need to get some panels for my studio here. The PSY, you say?
These are awesome. PSY. They're really wonderful. I've got an app that controls the panels. And then this instrument here, the old Fender Rhodes. Actually, this is this is a Fender Rhodes, like the bass kind that the keyboardist and the Doors used to play bass. And the way that I got this was interesting. I was at a party in California at a friend of mine that we worked with back then, and after I played the piano at the guy's house, and this one guest said, "You know what? I've got to go back to my house because I want to get something for you." So he goes back to his house and he brings me this. He comes in and he turns out that he's Harold Rhodes' son, the inventor's son. Wow. He heard me play and he was really inspired to give me this. He was like, this has been in my father's basement. It's one of the original Fender Rhodes basses, and I want you to have it. So I was very touched by that. That was
wow, that's amazing.
So I don't have that many like vintagey, really super vintage things, but
you have one of those Taurus foot keyboards.
That's one of the instruments I had first, the Taurus bass pedals, but I don't have them anymore. I sadly sold them along the way, and so I did have it. This one down here, this is an old, I think 1963 Wurlitzer electric piano. It's got a very nice kind of vibe on it. Very vintage. Love it. And then, of course, my Mini Moog, which this is an original 1973 Mini Moog. This was not the original one that I had, but it's Mini Moog that my friend Eric Norlander actually spots these things in the world and buys them and gets them reworked and fixes them up. And he saw this one and he said, "Jordan, this one is the one that you got to get, because this is like perfect. It's just got the best sound."
Isn't there only like a handful of people that are around like refurbishing those, because there's like something with the circuits, it's like not easy?
There's there's only a couple of there's few specialists throughout the country that do this kind of work. So I had mine done in LA. A nice guy named Rob. He fixed it up for me really well at his studio, and it's awesome. But these days I've been playing a lot more guitar, so I've been rocking this.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I wanted
You're on social doing that, like one-handed, and it blew my mind. My mind just exploded. It was crazy.
I'm playing like I'm trying to do the tapping thing, kind of one-handed on the guitar.
Do you know that he goes by Gabriel Guardian?
Yeah. I've been in touch with him. He also plays really well with one hand on the guitar and one hand on the keyboard. He's
the first time I had seen somebody with a guitar where they had it like painted like a piano, like the fretboard with a, and then this guy also, shout out to Ben Cohen from Power Glove.
He's awesome too.
Yeah, Ben's great, and he's been on the show. He's a friend of mine. That's how I found out about Gabriel, and then I saw him and I'm like, oh man, this guy's killing it. And then next thing I know, it's like, oh, I guess Jordan's getting back into guitar. Now I had seen you playing a video years ago. I don't know how old it was, and you were just doing it was like a little solo that you were doing, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't realize he played guitar. Then it's like, well, of course he he has the skill set to do that. But what was the I mean, what, it was Dream Theater going double guitar? What's the deal here? Why what's with guitar all of a sudden?
Yeah, right. Good question. So I was looking around, kind of looking at the guitars that John had graced me with through the years, just like, hey, Jordan, I know you like to play a little guitar, so here's a guitar. So, but the reality was I played guitar maybe 2 or 3 days a year. I think one of the days back in the day was when my keyboard broke during a liquid tension show, and I picked up the guitar and actually got filmed because I got tired of talking to the Japanese engineers in the back of a club, alley about how to get my keyboard working. I just went on stage. I said, John, give me your guitar. And then, he went over and played the Chapman stick. Tony Levin moved to bass, and I, got captured basically playing some pretty mediocre guitar because I had, really never played. But go back about 7-8 months now, and I just, I looked down at my guitars one day, and I was like, you know what? I really want to get this together. This is something that I should do. So I've been playing basically every day for the past 8 months. And learning a lot. And just one of the great things about it is like meeting all these new friends, all these guitar players, some of which are, friends that I had already that I hit up for a lesson or whatever. And others are people I've been finding out about that have just kind of come into my world while I've been on this journey. So it's been awesome because I'm just expanding my world. I'm a fairly social person. So I just been expanding my world and meeting new people and have new relationships and, interactions. And it's all really, really fun and getting better at the guitar.
Well, I would imagine, hanging around John Petrucci, probably not the worst person to be around if you're trying to pick up a thing or two on guitar.
No. I study, what he does on the guitar. Certainly. I mean, I don't want to bother John too much with my guitar situation because he's John Petrucci, and I can ask, I can ask other people about it. But he's very gracious. He handles it, in a really sweet way, and doesn't get pissed at me for wanting to play the guitar. And he'll show me some cool things. Whenever I have a question, he'll always answer me and show me what it is. Although we don't spend a whole lot of time on that. We have other business together. Yeah,
I'm sure. But I mean, just having those resources of being able to call upon, it's funny that you say that because, I've been kind of in a musical transition period where, I spent so much time drumming, and I always dabbled with guitar. And for a while that was my main thing. And then I got, sucked back into drumming, and, it's like, do I really, like, you get your chops to a certain point where it's like, I'm like 2 weeks away from any like serious gig if I really, needed to. And it's like, maybe now's the time to focus. And it's like, I'm out here in Texas, I'm listening to country music, it's the land of Stevie Ray Vaughan and Pantera. And it's like, I'm kind of feeling a little certain way about picking up guitar again. And I think a Petrucci may be in my sights.
Hit him up for a lesson.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure he will.
Hey, Jordan, does anyone like come to you, like, in the group, and they say, hey, can you show me how to get on the keys at all? Do they wanting the lessons from you? Like,
no, but nobody wants to play. I mean, yeah, nobody has. They're focusing on their own instruments.
Right.
I'm the one who's,
Mangini plays, right?
What he's got a little keyboard sometimes that back by his area, but he's not really a keyboard player.
Yeah,
he'll poke around at it.
Nice.
Well, that's it's like the 80s Chicago Bears defense. It's like, oh well, who do you want to ask for their skill set here? Like, you've got the all-star of all stars together at one spot, and then you got James in the middle there holding it all together. So I could see
right.
I could see that being fun.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
I wouldn't be surprised to see John Myung is like actually like the best saxophone player in the world or something. Like one day he's gonna pull something wild out and shock us all.
He started with John Myung has played cello in his past, maybe a little violin. I was just remembering that because I was listening to a podcast he was speaking on, but that's before he played those before the bass. Really? And also he played a little piano.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Jordan, but he's got that Progressive Concepts instructional from like mid 90s, and it's like he's so chill. Like, it's hard to find it. I think it was a Yamaha VHS.
Oh wow.
And you should look it up on YouTube. And he's like, all right, and we're just gonna go ahead. And he's like, and you're like, I'm like, what, dude? Like, he's so good. He's so good. And like, anytime I've ever been around, before a show or after a show, it's like, hey, he's over there practicing. It's like, no, he really is like always practicing.
He's always the first one on the side of the stage, warming up, doing his thing. He's a serious practicer.
Yeah,
very inspired.
forms like you
Very-
wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
So, you know, the real reason we got together to do this after we've had this great conversation is you've got a solo tour that you've already started. You've had a few dates. We were talking before we started recording on the West Coast. You're hitting everywhere. I know you'll be in our neck of the woods here at the end of the month. I'm going to try and make it down to Austin to see you.
Cool.
What is the genesis of this? Because I know you had kind of done some evening with piano type things in the past, and then I know you did the Cruise to the Edge and you were doing a little bit there. Like, is there a solo album in the works, or what's going on here with the solo tour?
Yeah. So, one of the things I love to do, it's very important to me, is to do solo shows because, as you guys know so well, that I do a lot of different kinds of music besides Dream Theater. And I have quite a kind of a journey from being a child playing classical music to what I do now. So the solo shows are a great outlet for me to express myself and do my thing. And not only these days, not only like play the piano, but also show my other things that I do. Like, so this is a perfect outlet. And when I have time, I do them. There's no solo album that's about to be released or anything like that. It's not so much about that. It's about me going out and doing my thing. So the last time I went out, I was doing like a Bach to rock thing where I'd really talk people through my experience from being a young kid and everything that happened along the way. And although this is not a quote unquote Bach to rock thing per se, it's still very much looking at my journey. I like to take people through what I do. I do start out and I play some classical music, usually some Bach or something like that. And during the night, I'll play something like that I used to play when I had to support myself in the hotels, and, some song from a movie or a Broadway show. And, and now I'm also including some guitar playing in it. I've been playing a song on the guitar. And I've got this awesome application that I've been working with this great company called Moises, Moises. It does this incredible track separation. So what you can do is you can take any audio file, basically load it onto Moises, and it brings back completely separate tracks of like vocal and guitar and bass. If you got an iPhone or an Android, you can look it up, Moises. And you just feed it whatever audio file you want. Next thing you know, it's giving you like the separate tracks of stuff as if you have access to the mix. So what I've been doing in the show is I'll have a little jam with John Anderson. We'll do a little Your Song with Elton John. Just, really just having fun and kind of showing the magic that I can do with technology, because I love playing, like accompanying these singers on the piano. So that's been really fun. And the other thing that's been really special about these shows is that together with Aaron Boschbu, who you might remember, who did some of the orchestrations for us and conducted the orchestra and Breaking the Fourth Wall, did some Octavarium stuff. He and I put together this 15-minute Dream Theater instrumental medley, a new one that I play on piano. And I'm premiering that, which I will record one of these days and get it out there. But I'm really excited about that. It's got a lot of cool Dream Theater sections in there and kind of banging through them. It's really, really fun. So it's a night of, and I play Geo-Shred as well. I'll rock some blues, towards the end. So it has a little bit of all the different stuff that I do, touches on, many of the things that I do. And it's a great time. It's really fun. And so that's what I'm doing. I got about 22 shows coming up, I think, throughout the end of June into July and the very beginning of August, before Dream Theater goes back to Asia and plays at the what is it, like the Download Festival there or something. Yeah. So
some big names on that. I saw that's really cool.
Yeah.
So it sounds like if you're a Dream Theater faithful, you're a guy like me who's knows it all about Dream Theater, you'd have a good time. Or if you're a casual and you're just looking for a good show, it sounds like you hit everybody there.
Yeah, I think that it's musically very diverse, and also I do entertain the crowd with some stories. And I mean, I'm not Rick Wakeman, who is a professional television host or whatever, but I got some good stories, and we have a lot of fun. And there's a lot of interaction. There's even a part where I've been giving a little rhythm lesson to the crowd in 11/8.
You teaching them how to clap on time?
Teach them how to clap on time and encourage them that if they like odd meters like 11, 17, 23, whatever, that maybe there's a chance for them in the music business.
I'll tell you what, I grew up playing music in the church. My father was a pastor, and he was always leading worship there at various churches. And I think my first knowledge of polyrhythm was trying to overcome the church clappers. You know, you're trying to play in 4/4 and they're like it's, you can, if you can play with 200 offbeat clappers, praising the Lord, you can do
I've had
about
some
anything.
I've had some great success by teaching people 11/8 with this riff. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll get people to basically clap to that, kind of like. I tell George.
Man,
Clapping. I said, "Don't stop." And then I start. Like, we're all having a really good time and
Yeah.
learning about rhythm.
you can't go wrong.
Oh, that's
You,
epic.
I'm sure you know Tigran Hamasyan, right?
Oh yeah,
I think I'm saying that right. He's like, Daryl, you got to check him out. He's that's
he does some wild shit. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like I don't know where he's from, but it's like Middle Eastern inspired kind of progressive, but it's like all piano, but then it sounds like Meshuggah. Like it sounds like
Yeah, no, he's got his own
crazy.
thing. Got his own thing going for sure.
It's Armenian. He's Armenian. That's what it is.
Okay. I don't know him, but I know he's got everybody, a lot of people talking about him, and I know he's really good.
Who's we've mentioned Rick Wakeman a few times, but who's like your favorite, rock keyboardist? Or
well, my hero was Keith Emerson.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's where a lot of the stuff comes from. The first time I heard Tarkus, which celebrated its 51-year-old anniversary the other day, but Keith Emerson meant a whole lot to me. Keith and Rick and Patrick Moraz, and certainly like John Lord and Terry Meniere from Gentle Giant. All these guys were big influences.
Yeah, I think Patrick Moraz is like the forgotten, kind of overlooked guy in when it comes to Yes, because of the shadow.
But I loved Relayer. I mean, Patrick was probably the main reason I got a Minimo, because of his solos on
Gates of Delirium. Yeah.
But no, because of his solos on the Refugee album.
Okay.
When Keith Emerson left the Nice, Patrick joined those guys and made this album called Refugee, which the Minimoog solos are incredible. And the one that totally blew my mind and changed my life was the song Someday. It's a ballad song, but Patrick blows this Minimoog lead with the pitch wheel. It's just really amazing.
I know. I remember watching some documentary about Yes, some of the different things that they did in the studio, and they were talking about going for the one, and how wherever they were recording, Rick went into some cathedral, and there was like this giant church organ. You know what I'm talking about? And so Daryl, this guy goes in, and Rick Wakeman was like wearing capes and stuff, like just the man,
right,
sequin capes, platinum blonde hair, just killing it.
Yeah,
and
totally.
He goes in and hears this like church organ, and he's like, I want to use that for Awaken. And they're like, well, we can't, so they ran a line all the way to this building and recorded it off site, and you hear the part, and it's like, it's just this massive undertaking and stuff like that. I feel like now it's a little too easy to just sample, and get, you can really dial it in, especially some of these engineers that really know what they're doing.
Sure.
But the idea of being that kind of, I mean, Daryl, he's also famous for, he did there was a Henry VIII on Ice, where it was like a concept album, keyboard driven music that they combined with a ice skating show.
That's amazing. And also, of course, Journey to the Center of the Earth, where he went out with the orchestra and his capes and all. He was, he's just an iconic character. Yeah, no doubt.
And it's like anytime, even like when South Park makes a reference to a keyboard player, it's like somebody in a cape with the multiple
Mhm.
stacks of keyboards, like he's crossed
Sure.
over into the mainstream.
Yeah.
But what's the best place for everybody to keep up with you? Keep an eye out on your solo
Well,
shows,
yeah.
and what's
Everything is on my website, jordanrudess.com. That's the best place. It'll lead you to my Instagram, which is very active, and my Facebook, which is also very active. But jordanrudess.com is your kind of hub for all the stuff. Yeah.
all things wizardly, right?
Yeah. And I do want to do a shout out to my a big part of my visual world. This year I became an ambassador, that's my title, to a company called Lightrix that does amazing video and photo kind of application software. And all the videos I do, everything you see on my Instagram and everything you see on my Facebook is basically done like with Video Leap or Photo Leap or Motion Leap, all these cool products that keep me inspired and let me just, make videos and keep content pouring out, but make them, with a visual kind of aesthetic in mind as well. I hardly ever just put out a video without something that I think is trippy or cool or interesting going on in the visual sense, and that's because of my in a big way because of the software that I've been involved with Lightrix.
So that's how you made that video where you turn into an alien, huh?
There you go. That's right.
Yeah.
I was wondering how you did that.
That was
Everyone
cool.
knows the secrets.
Yeah, now the secret is out. The secret is out. Well, Jordan, I'll tell you what, man, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your
Thank you.
stories with our audience. And just as a Dream Theater fan, this has been cool, and a fan of yours, in and out of the band. This has been, again, check this one off the list.
I won't crush your hand next time. I won't do it. I promise.
Next time
I'll leave you guys with a small tune. Some people
Yeah.
know this is 30 seconds of it and
Hit it.
vibe. There you go.
There you go. Jordan Rudess, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh my goodness.